Whoa! Look at this right there. That's the perfect dive.
That was absolutely cutting right there into the water.
What a noise! What a
Unreal!
What a maneuver!
Unbelievable! What a view and what a way to welcome you to Downpatrick Head in Mayo, Ireland for stop number 4 of the 2021 Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. Trace Worthington here alongside Joey Zuber. Glad to have you with us live from the stunning cliffs and rugged waters of the North Atlantic Ocean near the village of Ballycastle. Today's stage for the brave men and women who will all face the challenge of this new location. Stunning views, Joey, no doubt. But for the divers, focus and fear come to my mind when you're looking at these massive cliffs. They're not here for the sightseeing, are they?
No, they're not. It's a very, very intimidating setting. So a spectacular location for us and for the sightseeing folks, but for the athletes launching themselves from those impressive cliff faces into the wild Atlantic Ocean, it's certainly challenging. And they're contending with the open swells, the cold, the wind, and of course unfamiliar visuals in those dark caves. Gary Hunt there, one of the legends in the cliff diving scene. So a lot of environmental factors to consider here.
Yeah, and here's where we've been, and here's where we're going. St. Raphael, France kicked off the 2021 World Series. Then it was also Norway who held an exhibition because of various travel restrictions, Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina off the old bridge was stop 3. Downpatrick Head, Ireland here is stop number 4. Then an add-on, Puglia, Italy will take on stop number 5 on September 12th. And immediately after that, Polignano, Amare, Italy, the heart of European cliff diving, will host the season finale on September 26th. Joey, and the last stop took place in Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina off the old bridge, another legendary event.
It is. It's one of the cliff diving classics, the old Starry Moss. Jessica Mccauley there. Talk about consistent third place finishes this season. Adriana Jimenez on the screen right there. 2 years off the sport and comes back with a second place finish. And then we have this woman, Rhiannon Iflan, on an interstellar journey into cliff diving supremacy. 10 straight wins over 3 seasons. Nikita Fedotov there. The wildcard completely shaking up the leaderboard with a superb dive and a superb third place finish at that particular stop. Then the Romanian powerhouse Konstantin Popovic, second place and third overall in the series, but the man on the platform, that's the guy everybody is chasing. Gary Hunt, full gas. Basically, almost had straight nines across all 4 dives, once again confirming why he is one of the greatest.
And it was great to see the fans back in action in person. I know the divers loved it. Today marks the 82nd stop of the World Series since the introduction in 2009, but for those new to Red Bull cliff diving, we've got your back on how it all works. 8 women and 8 men are permanent divers in this 2021 season. 4 wild card divers are added to every stop, Joey, for a total of 24 athletes.
That's right. It's 4 rounds of diving, each of them being judged, and every dive counts. So it's only about 3 seconds to judge a diver's execution. Now, that includes the takeoff from the dive point. Then you've got the position in the air and form. And then Trace, of course, the critical water entry.
And that should be interesting here with the rough waters of the North Atlantic. The scoring is simple. 5 judges holding up a card between 0 and 10. The low and high scores are scratched. The remaining 3 multiplied by the DD, the degree of difficulty, equaling the total score. So, of course, Joey, the more flips and twists, the higher the DD.
That's right. So sometimes you got to roll the dice. At every World Series stop, 4 total divers make up the final score, and points are awarded at each stop, then added together, which go towards the World Series standings, and the divers can discard their lowest competition result. So in other words, they can just throw away their worst place finish.
Right. It's good position to be in, and then in the end, they're all pursuing one thing, the iconic and illustrious King Kaikili Trophy. Oh. All right, here we go, you guys. Let's get back into the list of challenges. Joey, I'm curious, the athletes face here in Ireland. As an athlete, a former athlete, how do you manage this location physically and mentally?
It's a difficult one because there's a lot of environmental factors, but somehow you've got to try and block it out. You've just got to focus at the task at hand, but you do need to pay attention to the swells as well. Got to look to the right when you're standing on the platform, look at the swells, see what's happening, and hopefully you can find a calmer moment. But it's a lot calmer today than it was previously, the 2 previous days. were pretty tough.
Yeah, and the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series sports director, 4-time Olympic gold medalist Greg Louganis talks about today's conditions and strategy.
Well, here in Downpatrick, there are many challenges for the athletes. The wind is really blowing a lot, so it can really mess with your head. The wind's not going to blow the divers anywhere, but it really is a mental game. So they really have to be really rock solid on their preparation and ready to dive. Also, you'll be watching them and they'll be looking to the right to see how the surf is coming in, the waves coming in. What they're actually looking for is a calm space in between the waves. Another challenge for the athletes is to stay warm, because you want your muscles warm and loose. And here with the wind and sometimes the rain, it can lower your body temperature. It really is a challenging location. It's almost like survival of the fittest.
That's a good way to put it, Joey. Survival of the fittest. What stands out to you, the key to success today?
Certainly being mentally strong, making sure that you don't let the environment around you affect you too much. You've just got to make sure you really stay focused on the task at hand. You just need to focus on the dive and the takeoff in particular.
Well, it's rough waters out there. Canadian Molly Carlson of Montreal came in hot in her debut on the World Series back in June, placing second. Now she's right in the mix with the big names of the sport.
My name's Molly Carlson, I'm 22 years old, and I'm a wild card on my first season of Red Bull Cliffdiving. To splash into the scene, that makes me feel so special. I've been following these icons for so long. They're brilliant at cliff diving. The challenges that they have to face is so inspiring to me, and to hop on the scene with them is a dream come true. Mostar was a little disappointing. I very much came in with the expectations to podium again, but I feel like I kind of needed that little wake-up call, because France was so like, you're here, welcome to everything, you can go to all the stops, and then Mostar was like, this is hard, this is a scary sport. 3 competitions left. I really think that the last 2 competitions helped me learn kind of who I am, who I want to be in this sport, and moving forward, I just want to be strong, confident, and smiling, always.
Definitely always smiling. It's good to see. Now she has earned a permanent wild card position for the rest of this season, and has a shot at a permanent diver spot for the 2022 season. And Joey, as we mentioned earlier, all 4 rounds of diving, there are 4 rounds of diving, 4 rounds count added together for the total. So let's take a look back at what went down in the first 3 rounds of the women before we move on to the 4th.
Okay, there we have Greg Louganis, A-OK sign. Ellie Smart, look at this particular dive, slicing and dicing away into the ocean there. So she had some great scores from the judges, so 9s. And first after round 1, Jessica Mccauley, this is round 2 off the platform, front triple half, and she's been so consistent this season. And she was actually first after round 2, but check this dive out. Rhiannon Ifland, just when she thought, or you thought she'd done it all, another record, 5 straight 10s, also breaking the record of the highest women's competition score, 129. And again, I reiterate, just when you think she's done it all, she surprises us once again.
And doing it at a location like this with all the surrounding challenges and elements.
Right, so, and she's actually a surfer, so she's very good at judging the waves and the conditions, and just a great athlete all around. And we spoke about mental toughness, and she is tough.
Well, she has 1 more dive to go. She's contending with Jessica Mccauley, who sits second right now. But what a beautiful shot of the 4th stop of this 2021 season along the rugged Atlantic coast, in the county of Mayo, near Ballycastle Village in Ireland. Spectacular new location. What a host.
It is. Look at those shots, just showing how wild and rugged it is. Actually, so yesterday waves were smashing into the tunnel, or the cave that you can see right there.
The judges today, led by Antonio Martinez of Mexico. He sits on the left-hand side. Claudio Demiro sits next to him from Italy. And then you have Marianne Reif of Austria. She's here. Cyril Umichkon is on the second in from the left, and then on the far right-hand side. Olivier Morin Ricard of Canada. I'll get all the judges' names straight here in a second, Joey. They were supposed to be in a boat today, but that's probably a good call. They're sitting on top of the cliff.
Better to be on the cliff, trust me. It's pretty rocky out there.
So Adi Jimenez, who dove earlier, just wasn't feeling it physically, so she is a scratch for our 4th and final round. So it's a reverse order, so the lowest scores from the previous rounds will begin the women's 4th round. So they're your top 4, Molly Carlson, Xanthia Panisi, Jessica Mccauley, and then running number 10, Rhiannon Iflin, who just scored 10s across the board, as Joey pointed out. She is on fire right now. So the 4th and final round for the women, reminding you that all 4 scores are added together and counts. We head back up to the platform, the women's platform, 21 meters, 70 feet off of the Atlantic. And Iris Schmidbauer, a permanent diver of Germany, 26-year-old. She was 7th in Bosnia. Needs to get that takeoff worked out. She wants to get up there on the podium today. It's going to be really tough to crawl back. And the scores right now, Joey just got married to her husband Chris on September 3rd in Copenhagen. Here we go. Iris Schmidbauer to kick things off in this 4th and final round for the women.
Okay, you could hear perhaps on the broadcast there, she was actually talking about a bee actually flying around in front of her face. So if you don't have to deal with the waves, you've also got to deal with bees and other animals. And
Greg Louganis, the sport director, as we mentioned, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, yelling at the bee right now, perhaps. Saying,
that's right.
Bee,
that's right.
Go
hey,
away.
Exactly. Get out of town. Get out of Dodge. We got to dive here.
Here we go. Serious business now. You don't want any distractions, again, when you are 21 meters, 70 feet off the water. And the seas are rough right now. And loud, too, Joey, for the divers.
All set.
All right, here we go.
Extremely high degree of difficulty. It's time to push the limits.
And the 26-year-old German Schmidbauer kind of pulls in the knees at the last second there to get her feet underneath her, Joey. That was quite obvious and apparent.
Yeah, well spotted there in that particular dive, so we can break that down in slow motion. So, but brave as they come, every single one of these athletes, just a little shrug of the shoulder saying, oh, well, things happen sometimes. You can see her there, just stepping back off the platform. Occasionally you'll see that also when there's high winds, so the divers will stand backwards and they won't feel comfortable standing there. They might need to come forwards. That's when they look at the sports director, Greg Louganis, and say, I need a moment to reset. And right at the end of the dive, when we see it in slow motion, you'll see what's called a breaker position. So you'll see her jumping up there. Perhaps she needed a lot more rotation. Coming out of the twist, everything looks okay, squeezing here. And it's amazing that she understands quite quickly, as soon as she sees the water, says, nope, I do not have enough time to make enough rotation. So she has to bend her legs to pick up the rotation. That is what you call a safety call. So good reaction speed by Iris Schmidbauer, but unfortunately the scores will be deducted heavily for that breaker position.
I don't know what's better, holding your position and trying to get big scores and sacrificing your body, or pulling it in like that and saving your body.
Survival.
We'll talk about the importance of takeoff a little later in the show with our methods of motion, but we move to the top of the platform now for Jackie Veleni of Brazil. So she was 8th after the 2nd or 3rd round of diving. The last podium was in 2017. 12th in Bosnia at the last stop. You know, Joey, you've seen her over the past several weeks. She's been working hard, you told me, on the technique and really making those necessary adjustments for the series.
Yeah, that's right. So we're at a training camp in Austria. It's a place called Area 47 near Innsbruck. So they've got a range of platforms there, lower ones, 3 meter, 5 meter, 7 meter. So when you need to work on the takeoff, Trace, you need to work on those lower platforms. You need to do a lot of reps. So we've all been working hard with her just to try to make sure she gets a bit more power from the platform, making sure the arms are nice and loose and smooth. Because you've got to, arm speed's very important with a particular dive like this. You'll see her stand backwards, and you'll see the arms swing and reach right up to her ears, but arm speed. It's got to get up there quick. If you don't get them up quick, you won't get the rotation. Let's see how she fares. Here we go.
A 35-year-old Brazilian with her fourth and final dive into the cold 15-degree, 59 Fahrenheit water. A little dense, that water.
It is.
When it's that cold.
Yeah. The colder it is, the harder the impact. So she's feeling very relieved after the dive. Once again, one of the most difficult dives in the world. Comes from a gymnastic background and has applied that into the high diving world. So it's performed in shows around the world, such as the House of Dancing Water, a bit like a Cirque du Soleil show. You can just see at the end of the dive there, a little under-rotated. And once again, demonstrating that the takeoff is oh so important, wrapping into the twist. This is where the abdominal muscles are working really hard to try and squeeze in. So power, technique, there are so many things that have to go right. And just around about 2.5 seconds from that 21-meter platform, 71 kilometers per hour upon impact. That's around about reaching up to about 8 G-forces. Tough stuff.
No question about it. So 5 judges, the high and the low are tossed, as we mentioned earlier. So 60.20 on that fourth and final dive. You add that together with the first 3, 240. 2-0 for Jackie Veleni. Beautiful shot here of Downpatrick Head, Ireland. Again, the 4th stop of our 2021 season. About a 260-kilometer, 3.5-hour drive northwest of Dublin, Ireland. Amelia Carpenter, kind of get the gear fixed up, Joey. What's going on there? This is different than a normal stop for the 23-year-old from the United States. I mean, like packing the jacket up, staying warm right to the last minute.
Yeah, that's right. So you stay warm to the last minute. They've got that bag so they can pull it up because you want the shoulders in particular and the legs to feel nice and loose and warm and subtle. If they're not, it's very difficult to make the dives, particularly when you're performing dives like this. So actually, we've had 3 divers in a row performing a back 3 somersaults with 2 twists. Amelia Carpenter, first ever performance in a Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series.
She went quick there. Not a bad dive at all for the first timer. Getting the last minute invite, so she just arrived a couple days ago. So Amelia Carpenter, with the biggest names in the sport, not intimidated at all. Nice.
That is exactly what you want to see. Being brave, throwing it down, difficult dives. Actually, she had the phone call to be a wild card, I believe at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning this week. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she was on the plane and arrived here. So she just finished performing in some shows in New York and then went out to London. And she was only there about 24 hours, and imagine that. And about 5 days later, you're performing a back triple somersault with 2 twists
in Northwest Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. And she's done a marvelous job there. Ever so slightly shorter vertical, so the chest a bit forward, but well done. First performance in the series. Nice work.
Antonina Martinez, head judge, with the rest of the crew. Weigh in on this one, 83.85 for her 3rd round dive, so 269.30 for the American, who is a 2012 finalist at the U.S. Olympic Trials, 3-meter springboard diving event. Remember to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Check out the Red Bull Cliff Diving page at Red Bull Cliff Diving. Photos, videos, cool stories, and much more. And there'll definitely be some amazing photos and videos from this stop here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland.
So impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just the structure, you know, of the platform being built on the side of that cliff.
Nice amphitheater as well, so you've got the spectators able to watch on top of the cliff. You've got this kind of horseshoe-shaped bay there, so what a sight for the spectators. And they get a sense of how high it is as well. It's very rare that we have that. Most of the time they're watching from down below. So it's around about 8 stories from the 27-meter platform, which we'll see with the men later.
See the safety divers down in the water, making sure everything's cool. A little breeze coming in right now, so the divers will try to manage that. Antonina Vishavanova the wild card diver of Ukraine, the 23-year-old who had that failed dive in Bosnia where she did the arm stand. What will she be doing here? Another arm stand? Because she came back down in Bosnia and then it didn't count.
Yeah, that's right. So if you press up into the handstand, once your feet leave the platform, and if you come back down again and your feet touch the platform, that's a balk. You get a -2 points. If you come down twice, it's a failed dive. That's what happened. She's looking steady now.
It's kind of like barely knocking the golf ball off the tee before you go. Here we go with Vishavanova dialing it in, regaining composure since that last stop in Mostar. Incredible.
Not a drop left behind. Trace Worthington, that is what you call redemption.
Yeah,
after that last competition. Thumbs up.
She's happy with that.
Gosh. She's got to be feeling good after that, right?
Her father, Oleg, competed in the first year of the World Series back in 2009. So runs in the family being on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series.
You can see her bending there at the hips, and that helps generate the rotation off the platform. So she's very steady this time. See, watch there, bending again. The arms bend just a little bit, and then kipping. It's called a kip. And that allows you to generate that rotation. And you can see her dialing in the Barani. What is a Barani? That is a front somersault with a half twist. Why do they do that? It allows them to see the water right until the last moment. So you've got to remember how quickly they're traveling. As I said before, 71 kilometers per hour. Not a lot of time to make those adjustments. Fine scores for Antonina.
The judges love it. Check it out. A bunch of 9.5s in the mix. She'll throw one of them out. She'll keep a 9, another 9.5. 103.60, so a total 289.55. So Vishavanova moves into the lead in this women's fourth and final round. She is the 5th to go. Men are coming up. Yep, the American guys right there. Dave Cultury in the middle. Steve Lobu in his final year on the left-hand side. Of course, Andy Jones. We'll see them momentarily. Look at all the folks sitting on the side of the cliff. This is a scary location for spectating.
They're pretty brave, the Irish, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about that. It'll be fine. Sorry to all the Irish out there if that's a bad accent. I'm sorry.
That's pretty good. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. We'll give you another shot.
Yeah. All right. I've got a few in the bag. Don't worry about it.
Inis Mor right here. She's had a really good event so far. Had some nice dives. The judges look on. That's their viewpoint right there of Inis Mor, the 25-year-old American who was 5th in Bosnia, currently 4th in the overall series points here at this stop, as we have 2 left after this in Italy. So really still in the hunt with being able to drop her worst result of the season, Joey, that scratch. She could still move in there in the top 3.
She could, so we're...
But for this dive,
yep,
and for here.
So we're about to see some great twisting action. Back 2 somersaults with 3 twists. She can sneak into the lead here. Needs to score 7s from the judges.
Or a total of 74.15 to pull into the lead. Inis Mor putting one down here.
Yeah, just proving that Ireland is her lucky charm. She's dove well before in Ireland. And wow, big smiles. Looking like she's really in a groove here at this particular competition. Trained well, good mental attitude. That's what you do. You jump on the back of the jet ski and you look at the judges. What are they going to give me? Big kiss to the crowds out there.
She's done a great job. Founder and CEO of the Clean Cliffs Project and built a high diving tower, Park City, Utah. A lot of divers from around the world came out and practiced there this past summer.
Yeah, that was very commendable, allowing the new generation of divers to gain some valuable practice from those heights. There's not that many high diving training centers around the world, but let's talk about Inis Mor coming up to 2.5 twists here. You see the arms coming wide, digging deep. And you've got to try and strive for vertical. You can just see her body ever so slightly leaning forwards, but only a smidge. So I do expect she should receive some pretty good scores from the judges. Very challenging environment and challenging dives. There's a lot to think about.
With that 3.8 degree of difficulty in 87 will get her into the top spot, 302.80. So Inis Mor of the United States now into the lead.
Can't hear anything.
4 to go in this women's competition. Molly Carlson, Xanthia Panisi, Jessica Mccauley, and Rhiannon Iflin. Look at that shot, that intimidating water here cranking away in the North Atlantic Ocean here in Ireland.
Just like to know how they got the camera guy in there.
I don't know.
That's not that easy, is it?
Downpatrick Head is one of 2 discovery points on the Wild Atlantic Way. Definitely put it on the bucket list to come visit here. It is absolutely spectacular. Molly Carlson, talked about her earlier, 6th in Bosnia, but she had that 2nd place finish at the first stop, really making some noise. There's her coach putting herself on the map, but as she talked about in that interview, Joey, she understands she needs more experience.
Yeah, that she does. So she's used to diving indoors in her training facility in Montreal, but of course when you're diving outdoors, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. You don't know what it's going to do. So I think she's got a great attitude, being very humble about it, and also understanding, yes, you need to earn your stripes. Just like Gary Hunt, it took him a good, let's say 3-4 years until he hit the podium. So we have to remind ourselves, it takes some time.
See the athletes bring in their sandals. They need those after they dive to get back up the ladder, and also the chamois to dry off the body before you dive, so you can get that little grip, that extra grip when you're grabbing your knees and all that. But here you go, Molly Carlson, the 22-year-old Canadian, in her 3rd Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series competition.
Got a chance to put some pressure on here.
Carlson gracefully entering the water. Her coach likes it. We'll see what the judges think on this one. Very nice dive, Joey. Break it down.
Yeah, what a great comeback with those last 2 rounds, around 3 and 4. So the first 2 rounds of this particular competition yesterday didn't fare that well for her. We're actually speaking to her before the competition, and we're talking about it. You've actually just got to push it to the side and say, okay, yesterday was yesterday, today is today, and you never know what's going to happen to the other divers, so you've got to try your best always, every single dive. And I'm really proud of her for doing a fine job with the inward triple. What I like about this particular dive is how aggressive she was on the takeoff. She really went for it. She was not timid whatsoever. So maybe on another replay we can see this. Watch this, how the arms will bend and throw, just like you're throwing a soccer ball. Look how close you have to come into the platform there when you're spinning in towards the dive. That's called an inward dive, or an inward triple somersault with a half twist. But this is the part of the dive, the end here, what she does really, really well. So that is the Barani once again. And for some divers, it comes very naturally, and that came naturally for her. So big hug, show of appreciation, great camaraderie amongst all the athletes here in Ireland. So Molly Carlson, nice work.
Seems like she's feeling definitely comfortable in this setting. 100 points on that. That's a big score when you multiply that with the degree of difficulty. So 3:16.80. Molly Carlson looking solid now. Takes command of the lead. As Rhiannon Iflin gets warmed up, she's rocking out, tuning out, trying to stay warm. She's coming up in 3. Xanthia Panisi next, Jessica Mccauley after that, and Rhiannon Iflin, as you see right there on the bottom. But on top right now, it is Molly Carlson of Canada with 3:16.80. That is the score to beat.
Now it's pretty interesting here. So this could be Xanthia's chance to take her first ever podium. She just needs scores of 6.5s to take the lead, according to our stats.
Greg Louganis, sports director for the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series since 2017. 4-time Olympic gold medalist. The only male and 2nd diver in Olympic history to sweep the diving events in consecutive Olympic Games. And Greg, you better wake up because we have a lot going on here in Ireland. Jessica Mccauley gets set. She is on deck, but Xanthia Panisi now on center stage. Dropping down, still searching for her first career podium. And right now, Joey, this is her shot when you're looking at the points and the score is coming into this 4th and final dive. She needs a 69.80 to move into the lead. And if she gets into the #1 spot right now, ahead of Molly Carlson, she's guaranteed herself her first ever podium on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. Pressure's on.
I love seeing that. Love seeing the new wild cards and the rookies coming up the ranks, pushing the other divers. I think she was actually talking to the jet ski just to make a bit of a turn to make the water a little bit more turbulent, just to put a bit of white wash.
Interesting.
Why? That helps you see the surface of the water. See that white wash there? It's a pretty good little trick that she's doing. Yeah. I like that.
Hear the ding, the bell, that signifies that the judges are ready, and so is the diver. And the jet ski circling around. Panisi looking at her first career podium on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. After that dive, Joey, do you think that did it?
Yes, I do. Xanthia Panisi, it looks like she knows she's done a good dive. Sometimes when you hit the water, you can feel it sort of tearing past your ears. Big kiss to the camera. Wow.
Her best career finish, 5th. That was at the 2019 season finale in Bilbao, Spain.
So this is a brand new dive from Xanthia Panisi, back triple somersault with 1 twist in total. So Rhiannon Iflan is her mentor, and she's done a fantastic job at this competition. She's been teaching her to look at the waves and reading the swells, and those little tips about the jet ski may have made all the difference. She's got beautiful, beautiful form, great leg lines, squeezing it nice and tight into the pike position. So takeoff, flight, and entry will be judged on every single dive, and it looks like she's done a mighty, mighty, mighty fine job in all 3 areas there. Ever so slightly short of vertical, could have been a bit more vertical. That is just being picky, and the scores.
Wow, okay, so she'll drop the 8.5 and a 7.5. She'll keep a lot of high scores. You multiply that solid degree of difficulty. She pulls into the lead. It will be the first podium of her career on the World Series. 91.20. She does it, Joey. When you roll that up, it comes up as a 338.20. Xanthia Panisi in control of this event and grabs the first podium of her career. Great shot here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland. Before we get to our next diver, let's check in with David O'Queeve, who's with Molly Carlson. Dave.
Molly, a great result today. Now, yesterday didn't quite go to plan. Today did. What changed?
You know, I really learned a lot from yesterday. I kind of got the waves in my head and wasn't really focused. So moving into today, I thought fresh start, and I wanted to really come out here and just do the dives I know how to do.
And you said earlier on that the whole series is a lot more difficult than you expected. Is it getting any easier?
Yeah, you know, I think no. Every time it's new challenges and new challenges, but that's what makes the sport so fun, and just coming out here and being surrounded by people that are also jumping off cliffs and getting those dives down just feels so good, so crazy.
Thank you so much, Molly, and congrats.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, Dave. And that smile, it's just locked in all day for her, no matter the result.
Does reiterate that it's always difficult, and every single location will provide its own set of difficulties or challenges. Great attitude, only a youngster. Good, cool, calm head on her shoulders, just for 22 years of age. Remarkable.
Look at that, spectators coming in, all the locals getting the pass to come watch this 4th stop of our 2021 Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. Trace Worthington here alongside Joey Zuber. Thanks for hanging with us so far. We are winding down the women's 4th and final round before we get into the men. This is Jessica Mccauley, currently in 2nd overall on the World Series points, was leading after the 2nd round today before Rhiannon Iflan had that smoking dive where she got 10s across the board. So now Mccauley trying to step it up a notch to get back up into that top spot, knowing that Rhiannon Iflan is to follow.
One of my favorite dives to watch. Back triple somersault, the pike position. It's got to score 7.5s to take the lead.
Whoa, nice dive in the air, Joey, great form. Your thoughts on the landing? New to cliff diving, you see a bigger splash than normal on that. How does that affect the scores? Is it like traditional diving?
Yes, it is. So the more vertical, the better. And of course, if you bring down the splash, it seems to impress the judges a lot more. However, what I would like to talk about, once again, just to reconfirm that the judges need to look at the takeoff and the flight, and her takeoff was wonderful. The legs were absolutely straight in the pike. Just watch the pike position here. So the deeper the pike, meaning the legs should be close to the body. Watch that, nice and close to the body. Good spotting of the water. Those dives are hard to trace. So you need to spot the water and count the somersaults when you're rotating backwards or in reverse. And if you don't do that, it's very easy to lose your aerial awareness. sometimes you can see them actually taking a sneak peek on every somersault, putting their head back, trying to count the water. Always look for the water. That is your common denominator when you're doing a dive. Jessica Mccauley.
90 on this, high degree of difficulty, as you called out, Joey. She moves into the lead over Xanthia Panisi, blocking an Aussie sweep, a 1 and 2 sweep there. So Mccauley of Canada, the former Brit, who she dove for previous years, now in the lead with 3:43.80. Panisi in second, so Molly Carlson on the podium for now. But we have the strongest diver in the history of women's Red Bull cliff diving, and that is Rhiannon Iflin coming up as we look at the Dumbriste, the broken fort. That's what it is called in English, the sea stack. It's close to the edge of the cliffs. It's only about 100 yards from here, Joey. It's not too far. That beautiful sea stack. Tourists love it. Rhiannon Iflin.
In her element.
In her element. You can just tell when she's on it, right? She has that certain look that you just know she's going to hit it. But you mentioned her surfing experience, and Joey, you know, looking out, looking at the swells coming in and everything else.
Especially yesterday, it was very, very, very choppy. Sometimes you saw some huge waves coming in. I would say that would affect the actual height difference of the platform, up to a meter and a half.
So she's going for 11 straight wins across 3 seasons. She had those straight 10s in the 3rd round dive, first ever for a female diver ever, which, by the way, was the highest scoring optional round diver in history for a female at 129, breaking her own record of 122.55. And she is just kind of fired up, putting on a little show here, which is great.
That's good. That is fantastic. It's nice to see them ramping up the crowd and interacting with everybody. So good to be back on the series this year after the long break.
24 podiums up at 25 starts, impressive winning average. She has a 77% chance of winning today based on the stats.
Pretty good odds.
So what do you think?
If I were betting, I'd bet on her, no doubt. Okay, here we go. So she's got one of her favorite dives, inward triple somersault in the tuck position with a half twist. Perhaps she's got a chance to break the highest competition score record as well. Let's see how we fare with that one.
Which is her own, 385.10. Xanthia Panisi, how about that? She kicks back and enjoys her podium finish. She's locked that in, first ever for the youngster of Australia.
Yeah, she looked very composed, you know, composed in training, you know, just taking everything in her stride, not letting anything bother her too much. Stayed really focused.
I like the fact, you know, when you look at different athletes trying to get involved in the cliff diving sport, you have gymnasts, you have divers, you have trampolinists like Rhiannon Iflin. I think it's pretty interesting to see the diverse backgrounds of all the athletes from a variety of sports. So some of the young male and female athletes out there, they have a shot at this. They can come out and try it.
Absolutely. So Rhiannon Iflin comes from an elite trampolining and diving background. The combination of the two makes her a formidable cliff diving athlete.
So Rhiannon Iflin in Rhiannon Iflin style. Joey, it's one thing to be consistent, but another thing to be consistently magnificent. Rhiannon Iflin drilling another one into the ocean, and most likely will take over the top spot and win number 11 across 3 seasons.
This is pure cliff diving mastery, in my opinion. An absolute cliff diving genius. Still to this day, I'm having trouble trying to understand how she can be so consistent.
I mean, break it down, Joey, as a former diver. Let's let her take it in a little bit here, but for all of the things that can be thrown at you in a diving event, with the water here and the cold water, the raging seas and the different locations and the jet lag and everything that goes with it, to be able to be that consistent in a sport like this.
Yeah, it comes down to being in the moment. She just knows what to do. She's got a lot of experience, like we said before, dealing with the ocean, but also you've got to have a good technical background, and she's got that behind her. And I think just some people are just born with raw talent. Let's just face it. She's just got natural ability physically and also a natural aptitude for mental toughness. You know, so sometimes you can see her kind of not faring that well in training, but when it comes to competition day, that's it. Hammer down, she gets the job done time after time. It's very, very rarely that she comes off the podium. And it's very rare that you see an athlete like this in any sport, as a matter of fact. So you've got to give her kudos, big smile for her. Wow, celebrations tonight in Ireland.
Nice little victory lap on the jet ski. The judges weigh in, and Antonio Martinez of Mexico on the left-hand side with his 9.5. He is the head judge. And a grand total way up there for Rhiannon Iflin. 104.50 on that fourth dive. And you add all four together, 391.60. And that is a new overall record, beating her own 385.10 as a four-dive overall score. Unbelievable. Iflin, always on fire.
Always got her sights set on new targets. Just incredible.
So Rhiannon Iflin marinating in success with another win, 391.60, breaking her own record for a four-dive total. Jessica Mccauley, another podium for her. Captain consistent, as you mentioned, Joey. Xanthia Panisi, the first time the Aussie has been on a podium. Molly Carlson of Canada, impressive, just off the podium. Ellie Smart remains consistent. What an outstanding women's competition as you look at the final results.
Superb. Superb. Also, like you said before, wonderful to see Xanthia Panisi on the podium for the very first time. That gives you a lot of confidence. That way you know you can do it. You know you can make the podium. And I do believe she's got the capacity to try more difficult dives. And perhaps she can make the podium more often. We would love to see that. Look at this climb up the ladder as well. FYI. A little scary, huh? How about the 27 meters all the way up? You'd be white-knuckling that all the way up, wouldn't you, Trace?
I feel much more comfortable where I'm at.
Fabulous.
But once again, look at that shot of the beautiful North Atlantic here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland, just outside of the beautiful little village of Ballycastle. And taking a look back at the women's competition before we move on to the men, it's all about Rhi.
So that is the required dive round, so you have to show more simple and graceful dives. It didn't even look all that simple to me either. So that's a front double somersault with 1.5 twists. You can see the swells there, definitely a lot more choppy, and then it's harder to get those rip entries. A rip entry is when you don't have any splash. And this is the intermediate dive. We call a triple half or a triffus. That's actually a terminology that you use in trampolining. 9s across the board. Wow, and this is the dive, like we talked about early in the show. Straight 10s across the board, a vanishing act, absolutely nothing left behind. The takeoff, the flight, the entry, absolutely perfect. That is why she scored those straight 10s across the board. New highest score record, 129, yeah. And then, of course, we saw the fourth and final round, one of her favorite ones. So she likes to do her hardest dive in round 3, likes to get the pressure off so she can focus on a dive that she is so consistent with. Well, she's always consistent across all 4 dives, as a matter of fact. And there you have it, 4 dives in total score, absolutely huge for Rhiannon Iflin once again. You see the arms throwing forward, generating that rotation. So there's so much that needs to go into the sport: power, timing, flexibility, reaction speeds. And it's crazy when you're doing this sport, Trace. That last part of the dive, the last 2 to 3 meters is like this, super quick.
Beautiful look at the C stack right there. Final results for the women. It is official. Rhiannon Iflin, 600 points. And she is leading the series by far with 2 events remaining. So on her way to another King Keely trophy. Jessica Mccauley right now in second, or remains in second, on the overall World Series points. Once again, we have 2 events left, both held in Italy. Each diver will get a scratch. So Rhiannon Iflin will scratch a first place thus far. Right. Let's check in with David O'Queeve, who's with Rhiannon Iflin. Dave.
All right, Rhi, you are no stranger to winning interviews. However, with the full house of 10s, beating your own record, is this one a little bit more special?
Well, yeah, I'm still pinching myself from that 3rd round dive. Yeah, to pull off a 5 10s on the most difficult dive that I'm doing is, yeah, makes all the hard work that I've done pay off. I'm super stoked. As soon as I turned up at this location, I was blown away. You know, it's fabulous. It's so powerful down there, you know, being in amongst the cave down there. It's so cool. I'm so stoked.
11 straight wins. What is next? And don't say 12.
Yeah, well, 12. Yeah, I know. Wow, 11 straight wins. After 10, I was thinking, okay, what's coming next? But yeah, I mean, I was trying to push the boundaries again, and 5 10s today. Wow. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to find a way to spice it up.
Amazing. Congrats again, and thank you, Rhi.
So Rhiannon Iflin on her way with 2 events left of the 2021 season to another King Cog Healy Trophy. Just a beautiful dive. The men are coming up next. Rhiannon Iflin wins it here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland. All right, excellent women's competition and a spectacular view getting ready for the men. But first, a different way we've been breaking things down to those new to Red Bull cliff diving. It's with our methods of motion features, Joey.
That's right. So with our methods of motion, today we have a particular topic. What are we going to talk about? Let's talk about the takeoff. Once again, we've got Rhiannon Ifland here, reaching her arms up. She's got amazing elevation for the platform, really making sure she drives through with the legs to get maximum height. On the right, we've got Iris. Didn't quite push through hard enough on the platform, and you can see that height difference between the red and orange line there. That's around about 30 to 40 centimeters, and you wouldn't think it would make all that much difference to the end of the dive, but it does. And you can actually see that Iris is slightly lower in rotation. Now watch very carefully on the right-hand side of the screen. The legs bend right there. Now she needed to bend the legs so she could pick up the rotation to make sure she didn't have a bad landing, but once again she had, well, I've got to give her kudos. Very, very quick reactions. You can see that beautiful straight line for Rhiannon Ifland on the entry, just proving that the takeoff is incredibly important, and it does affect what happens at the end of the dive.
Yeah. It's great to look at it that way too, because everybody thinks it's all about the splash on the entry. But
sorry, Trace, I had to laugh at that.
No, that's a great shot. These guys, all the athletes are just taking it all in. It is such a beautiful area, and the men, like the women, 3 rounds are in the books. The 4th and final dive coming up. So let's take a look back at the first 3 rounds of diving and the highlights.
Okay, round 1 directly from the rock face. Konstantin Popovic in the lead after round 1. So athletic. Incidentally, he is a former Olympian. Went to actually the Olympic trials this year. Then we got Gary Hunt. Check this front quad out. This guy's just unstoppable. 3 10s, and actually he broke the record. So that is 41 career 10s. Breaking Artem Solchenko's record of 39 with that dive. How's that? Off the cliff dive, and he breaks a record and gets 10s.
It's not even right. And
this guy is always, let's say, top 4, top 5. And his execution lately has just been supreme. He works really hard. He's in great physical shape. I believe Alessandro De Rose, when he starts stepping up the degree of difficulty, will be back on the podium again. So he has won. Actually, he won in front of his home crowd in Italy, and that was a sight to see, let me tell you so.
And that's where we're going next. And I tell you what, it's so much fun to watch Alessandro De Rose in the Puglia region. We have back-to-back events there coming up. So Italy, the final 2 stops. De Rose will be the star there as we take another beautiful look at Downpatrick Head, Ireland, and the men's final start list in round number 4. Remember, the lowest scores from the previous 3 rounds will kick things off. That of young Aiden Heslop. He's back in the mix. The Brit will run number 1. Andy Jones of the United States will dive number 6. You see all the gentlemen in between. So stacked with talent on the men's side. And then we get into the final men on the start list. Navratil David Cultury, here's your top 5, and also on the Rose, who you just saw. Konstantin Popovic, who has been diving well. He got a couple 10s as well today. And Gary Hunt, of course, the dominant one with 309.90. Not dominating. I mean, he still has to get a nice dive under his belt if he wants to fend off Popovic between 309 and a 306. DeRose in 3rd. So
yeah, well pointed out there. There's nothing in it. Anything can happen in the 4th and final round. Very talented athlete hopping on the platform here.
Yeah, Aiden Heslop, only 19 years old. When he was 16, he was the youngest diver ever to compete on the World Series. Then at 17 in 2019, he landed on the podium in Bilbao, Spain, and that was kind of where all the pandemic stuff hit. So now that impressive 3rd place finish, that was a while ago. So
I know. He was
see if he can carry the momentum.
Yeah, he was in high school then.
Yeah.
I remember him standing on the podium, he had a bottle of champagne. I was like, wait a minute, he's not allowed to drink that.
Beautiful shot of the Ellie James Joyce, the offshore patrol vessel out there. So they all came out, the crew, to watch the event. So we thank them.
Yeah, we should be on that, you know,
We
doing
should
the
be on
commentary.
that, hanging
you know
out.
what I'm saying? Good view.
Maybe that would be a more stable judges judges tower.
So incidentally, Aiden Heslop is a diver from Plymouth. And he's performing the exact same dives as Gary Hunt. And I know he idolizes him. So every single dive, round 1, 2, 3, and 4, he's had the exact same dive.
Greg Lugain is looking on,
Yep.
sports director. Just mentioned the degree of difficulty. Aiden and only 2 others have the highest degree of difficulty for the men. And whoa,
Yes!
that's a way to kick off the men's competition. Heslop, the 19-year-old Brit, putting on a show.
Down he goes, huh? Wow. The noise, the sound. We call it a rip entry.
Trains in Plymouth, as you mentioned. Hometown is Tom Daly, who we just saw won in Tokyo.
So these so Aiden was only around about, I think, 11 or 12 years of age and was always watching the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series, had his sights set on that. And he was always practicing his feet first landings at the pool. And that's what he wanted to do. I just love it when, you know, just 12 years of age and you know what you want to do. And you follow through with it. How about that? What this guy does really well is his twisting. Look at the jump, good elevation. He wraps the arms across the chest. That's more of a style that you would normally see from a gymnast. Very quick at twisting. And he's got his Barani there, so he's been doing that particular maneuver since he was 12 years of age and putting it into practice from 27 meters.
That's 90 feet. Guzman, oh, yep.
He's like, what do I do with that?
What do I do with that? He likes it, but you mentioned 27 meters, 90 feet above the water. Feet first, and that is very important, obviously, in cliff diving. You can't go head first. See what the judges come in. Wow, there's a couple 10s in there. So you have Claudio Demiro of Italy. He likes it. He throws out a 10 with a high degree of difficulty, 150.80. Are you kidding me? Aiden Heslop kicking off the men's competition.
No way.
The big score.
I was kind of looking at the other judges that gave him the 10. They looked at the others like, hey, why'd you
want
give
him
it
to
a
be the
10?
one guy.
It's got to be across the board, people. We all got to agree on this, you know? No, marvelous job. I mean, he's got so much talent. And to be honest, we're yet to see the best of Aiden Heslop, trust me. He hasn't had much of a chance to actually practice, but now we've got to switch to another diver.
Greg Luganis, our sport director, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, looking on to Stephen Lebeau. Very experienced diver. In his final season, 36 years old, he's announced that he will retire from the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series after the final event of this season. So that's just in a couple weeks. We're definitely going to miss Steve diving, and always puts on a great show. The other Americans, Sandy Jones, we'll see him momentarily take his dive. 5 career victories since 2012. He sits number 4 in the list of all-time wins.
Okay, ladies and gents, you want to see something impressive?
Yeah.
Okay, this is...
I do.
You do? You do want to see that?
I'm in.
Fantastic.
I'm in.
I'm glad to hear it. So he's going to perform a front 5 somersaults. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 somersaults. And then he's going to run towards the end of the platform. The first person in the world to do this. This will make you dizzy.
Others have done the running start, but not this dive.
So he's going to run to the end. Why? Because he needs that maximum amount of rotation. Running takeoff will help.
10 G's of physical force you're about to witness. Dropping into the Atlantic. American Steve LeBeau. I mean, what an impressive dive. Bit of a splash in the landing, but who cares about that? Steve LeBeau.
The thing that I noticed was that sound. Did you hear the platform? How hard he had to hit the platform? And that's what you need to do. You need to run and attack the takeoff. Throw your arms as hard as you can forwards, but you've got to hit the platform nice and flat right on the end, and then push and stamp as hard as you possibly can to get the full 5 somersaults in. Arms above the head, that helps the rotation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in total 5 somersaults. He was pretty much vertical, so he just got a little unlucky I should say, on the entry. So watch how the arms will throw. It's like throwing a soccer ball. 1, and right there, it's really hard. You feel like you want to slip out of the dive because there's so much centrifugal force. Look at the flexibility. I mean, his head was just like pressed right against his legs there. And he was more or less vertical. He just needed to stand up just a little bit more. That last little split second, stand up to try and get that vertical line. Little clap at the feet from Steve LeBeau, little signature move by him. It's going to be sad to see him go, let me tell you.
He's going to be part of the team heading out the new diving facility under construction in his home city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He'll be working there. 1:14.75 for the American LeBeau. So he moves into second behind the young Brit Heslop, who still holds down the top spot at 3:68.15.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, great show going on by the men so far. As we once again continue the men's competition at Downpatrick Head, Ireland. The first time that the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series has come to this gorgeous location. And we look at Sergio Guzman, the wild card diver, 30-year-old from Mexico. First time diving from 27 meters since July of 2019. I mean, a big break, COVID, the family, all kinds of stuff. And Addie Inis, who wasn't feeling right to take her 4th and final dive looking on. They're very good friends.
See Addie supporting Sergio, giving him some encouragement. Big clap the hands, slap the thighs. You got to get psyched up. You got to get pumped up before the dive. You got to feel powerful, alert, but yet zen. You got to be focused. Watch him there. He's starting to direct the scuba divers, the safety divers below, making sure they're not too close. Watch him, them splash the water, and that helps the diver see the surface. When it's very clear and transparent water, it's very important, because when you're moving that quickly, it's very, very hard to adjust for the dive.
Guzman, not bad, plunging into the waters of the North Atlantic. He's pretty fired up, Joey, and I think he is just psyched to be back in the mix, not only with the friends on the series, but just to be able to get up on that platform again.
Yeah, his first competition back, and it's so nerve-wracking. If you haven't been on that height before, you know, or let's say after 2 years, wow, you really feel those extra nerves. And this is a dive, this is a very, very complicated dive, because if you don't get the takeoff just right, you might be rotating too slow. And he has had a bad landing on this particular dive in the past. Now, aerial awareness is something we can talk about when we look at the slow motion replay here. So watch him jump there, dropping the chest a bit there. Watch the head flick. 2, head flicking back right here. 3. Wow. Okay, so what he's trying to do is count the somersaults as they go by. If you don't see the water as you go by at each somersault, you're going to feel like you're in trouble. You're going to feel like you're disorientated. That is the biggest fear of all athletes, not understanding what's up or down. And sometimes, occasionally it does happen. So they're well aware of the reality. But Sergio Guzman, not too bad.
Not too bad at all. The 105, remember, 5 judges, the high and the lower toss, the remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty. All 4 scores are added together for the grand total. In Guzman's case, 342.95. He is in 3rd before we get to our next competitor. Let's check in with David O'Queeve, who's with Aidan Heslop, our current leader.
Aidan, the best part about cliff diving in Ireland is the hot tub afterwards. But what is it like out there with your heroes and getting some 10s?
It's incredible. I mean, I've had a rough start to this competition, but to end it like that, it couldn't have gone better. I was really motivated on that last dive. I got a good pep talk from Ellie, which was great, and I knew I was going to go out there and smash it, and that's what I needed to do. And I did it. It was great. Incredible feeling. I'm just buzzing from it.
Okay, now tell me the truth here. Is there a reason that you have the exact same dive list as Gary Hunt?
You know, he was always my hero when I was growing up, him along with Orlando. But I think we're just very similar divers. I think our dives kind of fit how we like our technique. It just happens that it's the same as Gary's. It's always good to have someone to compare my dives to, so it's nice being the 8-time world champion that I can compare my dives to his.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aidan.
Turn on the jets in that hot tub.
Yeah, so there's certain kind of dives that always suit certain divers. So some divers actually prefer handstand dives, believe it or not, and some prefer twisting. And let's talk about this guy. This guy is impressive. He took the win at the very first stop in France this year. Catalin Preda, technically absolutely superb.
Catalin Preda, wild card diver, turned 30 in June. So strong and so fit right now, Joey. You pointed that out. First stop in France, a little time off, and then a motocross, a few other things during the pandemic time. Here he is, Catalin Preda of Romania. So Preda.
Man,
what do you think, Joey?
Well, to be able to do these dives, I mean, he's just brilliant technically. Okay, yes, there's a little bit of a miss at the end of the dive, but we're talking, I mean, he's pushing the absolute limit. He's saying, what is the maximum degree of difficulty? What is the maximum number of somersaults and twists that I can do? And he's doing it. So he's got a great technical background. Let's look at the dive here. I just want to see what happens. And just, Trace, what we're talking about here is just a split, like just the smallest angle past vertical can kick up that splash, which is very easy to do on a dive like that when you're doing 4 somersaults with 2 twists in total.
So it looks like the swells are coming up a little bit too. Just a little bit more movement than there was about an hour ago or even during training.
It could be. So I'm just going to look at the dive here. Where is he coming out? Man, he's coming out pretty early in the dive, which demonstrates how strong he is on takeoff and how much height he's getting. So he did have a bit of a disappointing 3rd round dive, but with more experience, more time, he's going to get better and better in terms of the execution.
5.1 DD, degree of difficulty, so 99 on that. So Preda not on the podium today. He will be in 4th with that 341.05. So Aiden Heslop, who David O'Queeve just caught up with, still remains our leader with 368.15. How about this little history made here with Carlos?
This is the first ever handstand dive on an off the cliff dive. So as a reminder, the first 2 rounds for the men at this particular location, diving directly from the rock face. So if it wasn't hard enough just diving from the rocks, okay, let me just impress everybody. So you can see his hands there. You can actually see him having to shift his hands. He had the left hand slightly in front, and then as he's taking over, a little bit of a shift back to the left there. Wow. Man, I would be terrified. Could you imagine? What bravery, what skill and strength and aptitude. So most of these athletes have got at least, let's say, 10 years of diving experience before they even attempt the sport of cliff diving. So extremely high technical standard. We've got Olympic athletes now diving in the cliff diving series.
So the arm stand artist, Carlos Gamino, will now go off the platform for this one. Perhaps a little bit easier than that rock face or cliff face. And will he be doing an arm stand on this one?
Yes, he will be. So this is a really, really interesting dive. So it's an arm stand reverse. We used to call it cut through. So this was a dive that used to be done more about 10 years ago. That kind of went out of fashion, but he's brought it right back into fashion and with style, let me tell you. So arm stand reverse, 3.5 somersaults tuck. Be very careful here when he presses up. So he's got to be very gentle, no sudden movements. You don't want to overbalance, of course. See his arms shaking and fighting the handstand.
Difficult dive. Slicing through the water as you see how far the divers go down. 8 meters, 26 feet deep, but you say bringing it back into fashion, Joey. Will that make the catwalk?
Well, let's see. So we've got to look at the dive from the outside. So, but he looks extremely happy with himself. And as you alluded to, it's amazing how quickly they stop underneath the water. You know, like they're traveling from at speeds of 85 kilometers per hour, and then just boom, they just stop within 3 to 4 meters, jumping up and down. But I'm really curious to see the dive. Obviously, we just saw the shot just cut underneath the water, but I am so curious to look at the scores. Coming around there, kicking, look at his toes, classic arch style, and look at the entry. Whoa, holy smokes.
Wow.
Whoa, we could be set for some massive scores here. Again, aerial awareness, seeing the water for the second time, coming around, looking at its toes, and you've got to really stay tight here. He's trying to keep his legs nice and straight, all the toes pointed. He wants those maximum scores from the judges. And he had a good, strong takeoff. I mean, imagine that. He's on his hands and he's managing to jump off the platform whilst using his hand. I want to see what the judges are going to show for their scorecards after this. What do you think? Hey?
I mean, I'm just impressed. I'm impressed with any arm stand. Whoa, 10s across the board. Wow. Carlos Gamino, stay away from the Irish authorities because you might just get arrested for being too awesome.
Yes. Lock him up now, I say.
Unbelievable. 144 on that.
No way.
Particular dive. Coming very close to Gary Hunt's optional dive record, but nevertheless, Gamino of Spain, 395.40, easily moves into the top spot.
I'm curious to see how many men who've actually had straight 10s. That is remarkable.
I mean, there's something in the Irish water today because there have been a lot of 10s given out by the judges. They're feeling good. Gamino into the #1 spot. Heslop in second. Steve Lobu of the United States in third. A lot of top divers yet to go. 6 left in this men's 4th and final round. Andy Jones. We'll see what he can pull off. He's watching all these other divers get 10s. He's going, what do I need to pull out?
Can you imagine that? Dude, really?
Yeah.
You just had to get straight 10s before my dive. Jeez, thanks.
Andy Jones, one of the best.
Sporting a nice haircut. He's got a bit of a haircut that he's working on a movie job at the moment. He's copped a bit of flack for that.
Go.
He won't cop flack for his brilliant diving.
Joey, you used the word adaptable. Talk about that after his dive and why you use that word for Andy Jones. Andy Jones, the tall one, the American, with a little bit of a splash coming out of that. Super nice in the air.
But there were so many positives about the dive. He was so powerful, immensely powerful on the platform. Superb elevation, great twist. A very adaptable athlete all round. I mean, he doesn't actually have a lot of experience with diving. He was only a college diver for around about 5 years. Actually, he was almost selected as a pro baseball player. He could have been selected for the US ski team in freestyle skiing, worked for Cirque du Soleil. Now he's working on major movies as a stunt performer in Los Angeles, doing very well for himself. But just a bit of a shame. To be honest, you know what I think happened? I think he just had a superb takeoff. He just overdid it a little bit. So sometimes when you're at these heights, you've just got to have a little bit of finesse. There are some dives that you need to back off a little bit. Watch how his arms swing up. Man, he went for it. He went for it with every ounce of power he had. Comes out, and he's around about here, and you can probably see it at this moment. He's like, whoa, I'm going a little bit far. And you just see him just stay straight. So towards the end of the dive, if you see them bend at the waist, they know like, oh, I've got to pick up the speed. At the end, he just stays straight because he knew that he had to do that to extend his body. Perhaps he could have put his arms above his head just to put the air brakes a little, but nonetheless, Andy Jones pretty well.
Mentioned he's been busy with his stunts in LA lately. 52nd start on the World Series. He was 6th in France. Always a great consistent diver. 333 on that. Won't cut it for Jones. Moves him into 6th. See the divers, the women wrapping up their competition earlier. If you missed that, Rhiannon Iflin. Incredible competition once again, taking the win as we look at Mikhail Navratil. Still always hanging in there, 10th in Bosnia. Wales is where he won for the first time in Wales, right? Remember, it was a very similar situation, location, and the waves, and the cold water was his first event win of his career after 53 starts. So he still has the goods.
That he does.
At the age of 36.
Extremely experienced. one of his attributes is his ability to find that vertical line at the end of the dive. Always in superb physical shape. Front 3 somersaults, 2.5 twists.
Needs a big score, 126.85 to pull into the #1 spot. Navratil from the Czech Republic, a lot of twisting going on there, drills it.
Maximum effort. It was crazy when you hear the dive. Could you hear him sort of breathing in the middle of the dive? So you hear him sort of grunting in the middle because he knows he has to work hard to transition into the next maneuver. Mwah! This guy's one of the most excitable characters in the sport as well. Captain energetic, no doubt.
This is his 78th career start on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, Joey. The second most career starts behind Gary Hunt, who we'll see in a few divers from now. And the only diver, along with Hunt, to be a permanent diver since the very first season of the World Series, 2009.
Yeah, once again, demonstrating that consistency. So the first 10 meters of the dive are very, very important. When you're training, a lot of the divers train it at a 10-meter pool. So all of the complicated maneuvers are done in the first 10 to 12 meters, let's say. So you've got to get that part right, practicing it over and over. And that's aerial awareness. You've got to get that part right because the last part of the dive, the Veleni, that floating maneuver, happens so quickly. So that first stage of the dive is absolutely crucial. Good scores. Wow, look at him. He's pumped. Emotion. After the dive, Trace, you feel so relieved. Before, very nervous.
David Cultury is next, but first let's check in with David Aquib, who's with Carlos Jimeno.
Carlos, it seems it's been your weekend. First, let's talk about yesterday. World first handstand off the cliff. What made you do that?
Yeah, it's been something that I've been thinking like for a long time, to make a handstand from a rock, and this in beautiful place was the time to do it, and I'm so happy that I did very well, so I'm happy about that.
And you said beautiful place. Is there something in the waters, 2 perfect 10s, one of them being you? What do you think made that happen?
So for me, being here in the cliff, this is where I belong. I'm from Canary Island. I love all the cliff around. So when I'm in a cliff, this is where I love the most. And in this beautiful place, I feel that I'm at home, you know, because all this cliff.
A huge congratulations and thank you.
That. Well put by Carlos, and you know he loves it. He grew up in these areas, so he's so used to it and familiar with it and comfortable with the surroundings.
Some people do feel better in those environments. It is an advantage to grow up in somewhere we've got cliffs and being outdoors.
So Camino in the lead, 395. Here's David Cultury of the United States, the 32-year-old, 8th in Bosnia. Celebrating his 55th career start on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series.
This is a super stylish dive. See if you can count the twists. First, 2 somersaults. I'll let the viewer guess how many twists. We'll talk about it after the dive.
27 meters, 90 feet off the North Atlantic Ocean. Cultury, beautiful dive. Carlos Camino, he likes it. He'll wait for the judges on this one, but Cultury has to be happy with this.
Booming sound as he hit the water. You can see his feet nice and flat, so you want to make sure your feet are flat to make that hole through the water. You can see that in the slow motion replay.
You can't go in head first, as we've talked about for those new to cliff diving. That would hurt.
Okay, so I said before, how many twists? Well, 4 twists in total. As a matter of fact, he's actually done 5 twists, so he's backing it off a little bit. We forgive him for that. But these particular dives, they say it's pretty scary. So if we can look at the next replay, you'll see him coming out of the twist. Whoa, look at the jump. Coming around here, 3.5 twists. Bang! And now he's looking directly at the platform and the cave underneath. So it's kind of spooky. So sometimes you can get spooked out. You come out of the twist like, whoa, there's a platform there. Big dark cave. So the visuals are different when you change the direction as well. Very experienced athlete, David Cultury. I think he should get a haircut. Might be slowing down his twist. Hey?
9s across the board. You see Andy Jones up there on the right. He's pretty pumped up for his very good friend and countrymate, David Cultury, with a 393.10. So that puts Cultury on the podium for now with 3 divers left to go. So it's Gimino, Cultury, and Navratil holding down the top 3 spots. Dorose, Popovic, and Hunt, a powerful trio coming up.
How's the standard of this competition in an environment such as this? These divers are definitely the best in the world. Brave, technically proficient.
Alessandro Dorose now with an arm stand dive. Call him Cinco Dorose, 5th this season. Always stays in the top 5. 5th at the World Championships in 2019.
Has a chance to make the podium at this competition. Needs 8.5 from the judges to take the lead.
Cutting into the water is Alessandro Dorose, putting pressure on Carlos Gimino. 395.40 is the total score to beat. Dorose needs a 114.50. Mr. Zuber, I think that'll do it.
Alessandro Dorose, let's talk about style. And let me tell you, you got it. Again, look at the reaction from the athletes slapping the water. As I said before, the tension before the dive, the nerves, and that sense of relief after the dive, but you know when you've done it right, and he did it right on this particular occasion. The arm stand dive, impressing the crowds, impressing me, let me tell you. And he's been working really hard with the trampolining coach to make sure he can work on that Veleni, as I alluded to earlier in the show, making sure that he knows how to find that exact point, finding that vertical line. Went really deep on that dive, bending the legs, throwing into the twist, coming around, just keeping the eyes on the, keep the eyes in the water, keep the eyes in the water, and then lift. And he lifted just at the right time. It's very easy to get caught with what we call looking at the water. You just keep looking at it, but you've got to anticipate the landing, and that only comes with experience, and that he has. Alessandro Dorose looking mighty fine. Oh,
more
my
tense.
gosh.
More tense.
What is going on at this competition? What?
Wow, 3 10s. He'll drop one of them and a 9.5 for a 138.65. So Dorose now in the lead with 419.55.
That's what you call the look of the Irish.
There you go.
Look at the Irish people. Huh?
And Gary Hunt now. He's starting to focus. He's like, uh-oh.
There's no curse with cliff diving here. Sorry, guys. I apologize.
So 2 divers left, and Dorose, who we will see in his home area of Puglia and Polignano Amare coming up at our final stops of the season. But right now, it is Konstantin Popovic who has his work cut out for him. And he needs a 113.35 to pull into the top spot. And then Gary Hunt to follow.
Dorose did a fantastic job putting on the pressure for remaining divers. Okay. So stay steady in the handstand.
Sensational dive by Popovic of Romania.
Simply superb by Konstantin Popovic. So athletic, so talented. And again, I want to talk about mental toughness. That guy is tough. He doesn't let too much disturb him. He's always got the task at hand.
Guy who nearly earned a spot to the Tokyo Olympics recently. As a 10-meter platform diver, he missed out by only 10 points. Some top-notch divers in this competition. Look at that.
That he is. Look at this. Back arm stand, 3.5 somersaults with 2 twists. I mean, he's so powerful right there, digging deep. So the judges want to see the legs folded against the chest. You gotta really make sure that the legs are pulled together. And this just shows you the caliber, like you were talking about. I mean, narrowly missed the Olympics. He was talking about it. He just said, I just had a slightly off day on the Olympics, but the scores he was receiving in the previous competitions leading up to the Olympics would have got him in there. But here he is on the stage with the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. What a wonderful dive from Konstantin Popovic.
And there you have it. So all 4 scores, all 4 dives added together for a total of 433.60. So Popovic now in command of this competition. De Rose in second, guaranteed a podium. Carlos Camino in third, now on the bubble, and you don't want to be on that bubble when Gary Hunt is on deck. So there you have it. Popovic, De Rose, Camino, Hunt coming up next. Final dive here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland, and stop number 4 of this 2021 season.
So Gary Hunt, he's been in this situation many times. Imagine just being the last person. Oh, the handspring. I was a bit worried about falling off sideways. Oh, just ruined my dive.
Does he seem relaxed? 8-time Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series champion. 40 victories. He got his 40th one in Mostar at our last stop. 68 podiums in 81 competitions. So a podium strike ratio of 84%, and 50% of them have been on top of that podium.
He does have his work cut out for him. He's definitely got some pressure on his shoulders here. He's got to score above 8 if he wants to win this particular competition. So Konstantin Popovic is always constant. He's always...
Well, the judges are just handing out 10s, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yes. He's got to earn it, though.
Look at that walk up, folks.
I just like how he hopped off that. Hey, no problem at all. Got no problem with fear and heights.
About a 100-foot walk up to the top. Popovic that you just saw hiking up the ladder. He's in the lead, 433. Hunt, last competitor. Will he win again?
Yeah, pressure's on, pressure's on. Here we go.
Gary Hunt with his 4th and final dive.
Oh, this is going to be close.
First rate, but it is going to be close, Joey.
Real close. I mean, he's superb when we're talking about how he jumps off the platform, the elevation, the technique, the form in the air, but there was a slight miscalculation on the end of the dive. Everything comes down to the judges. So he was the first person in the world to do this. They call it the triple quad. That's the nickname for this dive. So back 3 somersaults, 4 twists in total. I'm just going to look at the angle here. It's only just a slight miscalculation. We only need a little bit to kick up that splash. Whoa, I'm nervous just waiting. It just seems a little bit rounded. Needed to stand up a little bit taller on the dive. Look at that, 3.5 twists coming into it. Working hard. So he's got a strength and conditioning coach in France that he's been working with. And every year he seems to be working harder, physically, mentally, and technically. How old's Gary at the moment?
37.
37.
Now representing France, formerly the UK, after all the years. He's the only guy to compete in every single Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series event since its introduction in 2009. So you have Popovic on the left-hand side. You have De Rose right there hanging out. 132.60 with that huge DD. Ladies and gents, Gary Hunt with a 442.50 has won victory number 41.
Superb.
And these guys are like, they're psyched, but how do we get in front of this man?
I mean, what do we like? How do you beat him? They must be thinking, what, are we going to push him off the cliff or something? I mean, look.
How do we get in front of Hunt is the question everybody's asking. And you can see the waves crashing in, all of the elements that the divers, both men and women, have been dealing with, a very good perspective. And the hike back to the top is your victor, Gary Hunt.
Definitely looks a lot more choppy towards the end of the competition. You can really see the waves smashing into the caves down below. What a supreme athlete. It's amazing, like Rhiannon Ifland, there always seems to be one genius in this particular sport. What a cliff diving masterpiece. He's saying, that's it, I've won, I'm in the hot tub, let me relax.
Gary,
soak it up.
Gary Hunt, making a mark in one of the world's most beautiful landmarks, Downpatrick Head, Ireland. and all it has to offer. So Gary Hunt, number 41 of his career, Konstantin Popovic, no stranger to the podium in second. And how about Alessandro De Rossi of Italy, Mr. Consistent this year, with a third place before going into his home country for the final 2 stops of the season. Have to hand it to Carlos Gamino with his arm stand dives in 4th. So Andy Jones rounding out the top 11, a phenomenal men's competition that belongs to Gary Hunt of now France.
There's the man of the day. Oh, he's going for the soccer knee slide. Well, he might have a few grazes after that one. A break stop.
We'll leave it to the pro Gaelic football players that are here in Ireland. Gary's like,
yeah, he was like, ow. Hey, I've got to hand it to Alessandro De Rossi. Fine performance.
All right, let's check in with David O'Queeve in the hot spot. Dave.
Gary Hunt, what a performance. 10s were being thrown out there. How much pressure was you on that last dive?
There was a lot of pressure, as always, on the last dive. You don't want to mess it up. I heard the scores of Costa, 8.5, and I was like, okay, that gives me a little bit of breathing room, but it was really close. I got 8.5 myself, so I know that margin was wafer thin, but I'm over the moon, obviously.
And this makes it a 50% win rate. You've now officially won half the competitions you've ever entered. What does that mean to you?
Wicked. I knew I was close to that record, so yeah, I hope I can keep it up for long. It's going to be tough to keep that statistic, but I'll do my best.
Okay, and you're closing in on that World Series title. What are you going to do between now and Italy to prep?
We'll see. My team in France has started back training, so I'm going to take a couple days off, get back with them. They always lift my spirits up, and I push myself to keep up with those young guys. So I'll be back there at the INSEP next week and training. This is not over. We've got 2 competitions left. I have to be careful. There's sharks in the water, Romanian sharks, and they're vicious.
Romanian sharks. Congratulations, and thank you so much.
Well summed up, Gary Hunt.
Absolutely love it. Great camaraderie, but Gary Hunt.
There's sharks in the water.
That's a great way to put it. So he's not going to add on to his apartment yet to make room for that 9th King Kaikili trophy.
What I love about Gary Hunt is he's so gracious in defeat and when he wins as well. So he knows that these Romanian divers, well, a lot of the cliff divers are absolutely superb and they're hot on his heels. But once again, experience, knows how to handle pressure, more 10s at this particular competition. Yeah. And again, with this environment, with these conditions, and to see those scores, almost unheard of. That front quad half there from Gary Hunt. Slick 3 10s on that particular dive. And he's never ever missed one single competition in the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, and to dive that well and never have an injury, superb. Knock on wood. That's round 3.
This was his 82nd World Series start, and to be able to still do that.
Yep. And you've got to also think about all the other competitions, the FINA events, the competitions in Italy. I have no idea how many competitions he's taken part of. In the hundreds, no doubt.
Big shout to the judges, doing a great job today, by the way, with the scoring. Round 4 for Gary.
And here is the dive that sealed the deal. I'm sure he's feeling incredibly nervous before that dive. As he said, that Konstantin Popovic had a great scoring dive, 8.5, so he knew he had to perform. But relying on his instincts, his training, what a legend he is. Humble, gracious, and a cliff diving genius.
So 560 points is what Gary Hunt has racked up so far this season with 2 events left. Konstantin Popovic right on his heels. He has 450. Catalin Ferretta. So he says the Romanian Sharks on his heels. And remember, all divers get a scratch. They get to throw away one of those scores or one of those events, the worst of all of them. So it is still within the range of many divers to catch Gary Hunt. And there you go. That rounds out the top 16 here. What an amazing event from Downpatrick Head, Ireland. Can't wait to Italy. And speaking of that, we have 2 events left in the 2021 season, and it's a doubleheader from southern Italy. Puglia, Italy will host the first of 2, which is the 5th stop of the World Series. You can check it out Wednesday, September 22nd. And And then 4 days later, from the heart of European cliff diving, Polignano a Mare, where the houses, look at that, literally rise from the rocks, and the divers plunge into that crystal clear Adriatic Sea. It's spectacular, and that will be the World Series finale and the presentation of the King Kaakili Trophy. Sunday, September 26th, so lock it down. Both events will be live, and both events will take place at the same location in Polignano a Mare. Go to redbullcliffdiving.com for times in your area and how to watch. Joey will take you through the events. Looking forward to that. So, 2 stops left in the World Series. Gary Hunt and Rhiannon Ifland leading the way both on the men and women's side. So the celebration begins here at stop number 4 of Downpatrick Head, Ireland, where Gary Hunt and Rhiannon Ifland continue their dominance, winning on the men's and women's side. And can they be stopped is the big question. But there are some great competitors this season in Mccauley. Jessica Mccauley, Inis Mor in the middle, doing a nice job representing Australia, getting her first podium her young career on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, and her mentor, Rhiannon Ifland, is fired up.
That she is. 2 Aussies on the podium. Xanthia actually is from my hometown in Brisbane, and Rhiannon comes up there quite often to train, and so I'm absolutely delighted to see her dive so well. That's going to be a hard one to travel with. That's not going to be easy.
I've noticed you've analyzed that every event. You've always looked at the trophies and said,
just think about packing, small ones, good, we can get it in there.
Well, Joey would know. Joey would know. For those folks who don't know, Joey's had a very illustrious career in cliff diving and is well aware of how to pack a trophy going back to Australia. But how about her? Jessica Mccauley. Jess.
Let's give her props.
Just to impress right there. I mean, she has been really lights out consistent.
2/3 and then a second. So second overall in the series ranking. She's just stayed cool and calm. She's been so consistent. She has been talking about trying a new dive. I think she's talking about doing a back 4 somersaults. So I'd be curious to see if she can do that next season. So the woman of the day, the Australian, the powerhouse, ladies and gents. First place yet again, Rhiannon Ifland.
11th straight win across 3 seasons.
She was feeling a little sore by the looks of it before the competition, a little bit of limping. Perhaps maybe a little bit of a groin strain, so that's pretty common in the sport of cliff diving. The legs want to pull apart as you hit the water, but she's looking very strong. She muscled through it.
Hand it to the Irish fans coming out. Only a select few locals got the invite today. So Joey, I mean, this is an incredible competition on both the men and the women's side. The most 10s that have ever been awarded at a single event, and the first time that 2 divers were awarded 10s across the board. Could this possibly be the greatest Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series event of all time because of that?
Yeah, I mean, every time you think a record can't be broken, it keeps getting broken.
Yeah.
And what a location to do it. This was just absolutely spectacular in terms of the performance from the divers. Everyone's in their groove. But beautiful, beautiful scenery. And I do think that the athletes have become more mentally strong now they're at the midway point of the season as well. They've got used to the height once again. And in, as we saw in Bosnia, we had very challenging conditions, you know, wind, rain, and I do think it helped them get ready for this particular competition. But here we have it. Yes, this is one of the greatest competitions we've ever seen. As you said, most amount of 10s in a competition. Brilliant stuff. Flying the flag proudly for Alessandro De Rosa. You can see he's so happy. But to perform so well, his degree of difficulty was definitely a lot lower than quite a lot of the other divers. But what does that tell you? His execution and the scores he was receiving were just remarkable.
He's like the golfer that doesn't have the furthest drive every time, but just that consistent pace through the whole course, right?
Just keeps chipping away, chipping away
at people, yeah.
Forgive the pun, you know.
I can't wait to go to Italy and check him out from his home country. But the elated Konstantin Popovic of Romania holding it down, second place. I think he thought he had this one wrapped up, and then he saw Hunt come up and hit that last dive and was like, how am I going to get ahead of this guy?
I mean, you got to say this, he gave it his absolute best shot, and that's all you can do. So you just got to focus on what you need to do. You try your best and you hope for the best. You don't know what's going to happen or what the other divers are going to do. There's a lot of things out of your control, so you can't control what the judges do or what the other divers do. So you can see how happy he is. And here we have the proud Frenchman, Gary Hunt.
Career victory number 41 and his 69th podium. Unheard of. Gary Hunt well on his way with 2 events left to winning his 9th career King Ka'akili Trophy. Unstoppable. Gary Hunt now representing France.
You heard him talking, so he's already thinking about training. A couple of days to let himself rest. And then back into his training.
So Gary Hunt winning it here in Downpatrick Head, Ireland, stop number 4. 2 events left. Will he win his 9th career King Ka'akili Trophy? We will find out soon. On September 22nd, we go to Puglia, Italy, and then Polignano a Mare. Both will be held off the platform in Polignano a Mare. That final stop, September 26th. So the champagne is popped. We wrap things up from Downpatrick Head, Ireland and the North Atlantic Ocean. What a day packed with action and an amazing location for the elite athletes of cliff diving. We'll see you at the next stop in Puglia, Italy, then in Polignano a Mare. Thank you for watching the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. For David O'Queeve and Joey Zuber, I'm Trace Worthington. We'll leave us with some of the best images of the day. So long from Ireland.